Welcome to the channel. Have you ever felt something watching you when no one was there? Heard a voice with no source, or stayed somewhere that just felt wrong? Tonight, we're diving into real stories sent in by people who visited Las Vegas and left with more than just memories. These aren't horror movies. There are no special effects, no monsters. Just the kind of experiences that make you question what's real and what isn't. Turn off the lights, put on your headphones, and listen closely. Because some trips stay with you even after you come home. Story: something was watching us in that hotel room in Vegas. My name is Kevin. I'm 31 now, but this happened when I was 26. Me and two friends, Justin and Leo, decided to go to Vegas for a long weekend. We had been planning the trip for months. Just a break from work, girlfriends, routine. We weren't high rollers or anything, just three guys trying to blow off steam. We booked a room in a hotel off the strip. Not one of the flashy ones. This place was a little older, a little less glamorous, but it was within our budget and had decent reviews. The room was on the 14th floor, which was something we joked about. Unlucky floor, Justin had said while we were in the elevator. We laughed it off. The first night was normal. We went out, drank too much, gambled a little, came back around 3 a.m. and crashed. Nothing weird. But the second night, that's when things started to feel off. We got back to the room around 2 a.m. that time. Leo passed out immediately. I was in the bathroom brushing my teeth, and Justin was by the window, looking out at the city lights. He said something like, "Man, this place has a weird energy." I thought he was still drunk. But then he got quiet. When I came out of the bathroom, he was still standing there, but his posture had changed. He looked tense. I asked him what was up, and he turned slowly and said, "There's a guy in the room across, just standing there, looking right at me." I walked over. The room across the courtyard was dark, but sure enough, someone was standing behind the sheer curtain. Not moving. Just there. Facing us. I waved stupidly, thinking it was someone messing around. No reaction. Just stillness. We tried to ignore it. Closed the curtain. Got into bed. Leo was snoring already. Around 4 a.m., I woke up to a loud thud. Like something heavy had hit the wall. I sat up and looked around. Justin was awake too. He whispered, "Did you hear that?" I nodded. It wasn't just a thud. It was followed by a dragging sound. Like furniture being pushed across the floor, but in our room. Only nothing had moved. Leo was still snoring. Justin grabbed his phone and turned on the flashlight. We scanned the room. Nothing out of place. Then I noticed the chair in the corner. It had been facing the TV earlier, but now it was turned slightly toward our beds. It wasn't dramatic, just off enough to feel wrong. Neither of us said anything. We just turned the light off and tried to sleep. The next morning, we told Leo about it. He laughed and said we were hungover and paranoid. Maybe we were. That night, we stayed out later than usual. We were trying to avoid going back to the room, I think. Subconsciously. Got back around 4 a.m. And right as we walked into the room, we all noticed it, a weird smell. Like burnt metal or old wires. It wasn't strong, but it was there. Acrid. Faint. The kind of thing you can't unsmell once you notice. Justin went straight to the bathroom. Leo laid down and was asleep in seconds. I stayed up, scrolling on my phone. I felt uncomfortable, like someone was behind me the entire time. At one point, I looked up and saw something on the carpet. A single coin. A penny. I didn't remember seeing it there before. None of us had any coins. I bent down to pick it up, and as I touched it, I felt this sudden cold sensation crawl up my fingers. Not cold like temperature, cold like static. Like touching an old TV that's just turned off. I dropped the coin and stood up fast. Then came the whisper. I swear to God, I heard it. Right behind me. A whisper I couldn't understand. It wasn't in English. Just a breathy, raspy voice saying something too soft and too close. I turned around, heart racing. No one was there. Justin came out of the bathroom and saw my face. "Dude, what happened?" I couldn't answer. I just pointed to the penny on the carpet. He looked down and went pale. "I just saw that exact coin in the sink," he said. "Like, 30 seconds ago." I thought it was weird. I didn't touch it. We didn't sleep that night. Next morning, we packed up early. Went to the front desk and asked if we could check out a day early. No explanation. The clerk didn't even ask, she just nodded and did it fast. Like she'd heard it before. I've been back to Vegas since then. But never to that hotel. I don't even like walking past it. I don't know what was in that room. Maybe just our minds playing tricks on us after long nights. But that chair, the smell, the whisper. I still dream about it sometimes. And I never touched another penny again. Story: the disappearing room on the 5th floor. My name is Adrian, and I'm not someone who normally believes in paranormal stuff. I'm pretty grounded, logical, rational, boring even. But what happened to me during a solo trip to Las Vegas in 2022 is something I still can't explain. And honestly, I've stopped trying to. I had gone to Vegas by myself. It was meant to be a kind of solo reset trip. I'd gone through a breakup and needed some distance from everything. I wasn't there to party. I booked a quiet room in a mid-range hotel just a few blocks from the Strip. It wasn't a casino hotel, more like one of those modern boutique spots that try to look sleek and minimal. When I checked in, the guy at the desk asked if I was okay with the 5th floor. I didn't think twice. I said sure, grabbed my key card, and took the elevator up. Room 520. The hallway was strange. I noticed it immediately. Not creepy, just oddly quiet. No background music like most hotels. The air felt heavier, too. Like the hallway didn't circulate properly. But I was tired and brushed it off. The room itself looked normal. Bed, TV, mini fridge, small desk. Clean. A little cold, but manageable. I unpacked, freshened up, and went out for dinner. When I came back around 10 p.m., I took the elevator up, turned the corner to head toward my room, and froze. The hallway looked different. Longer. The carpet was the same, the walls too, but the lighting was dimmer. Warmer. It was subtle, but I swear the color temperature had changed. Like someone had replaced the bulbs while I was out. I kept walking, counting the room numbers. 514. 516. 518. And then it just skipped to 522. My room, 520, was gone. I turned around. Checked again. Backtracked. Number 520. I even walked all the way to the stairwell at the end and came back. It just wasn't there. Confused, I went back to the elevator, thinking maybe I was on the wrong floor. But the display said 5. I went down to the front desk. There was a different attendant now, a woman, mid-40s maybe. I told her, calmly at first, that I couldn't find my room. I even showed her the key card. She looked at it, then typed something into her computer. Her eyes stayed on the screen longer than I expected. Then she looked up at me and said, "Room 520 hasn't been used in over a year." I thought she was joking. I said, "I literally checked into it a few hours ago." A guy handed me this card. She frowned and asked for the card back. She turned it over, squinted, and then said, "This key is for a different property." I felt my stomach turn. I asked, "What do you mean?" She explained that the card wasn't from their hotel. It looked almost identical, but it had a slightly different logo, one from a sister property down the street. I looked at it again, and sure enough, it wasn't the same as the logo behind her desk. But I had walked into this hotel. I had checked in here. I had used the elevator here. I had taken a shower in room 520. She offered to call the other property to see if maybe I had been misdirected. But when she called, they had no reservation under my name. Nothing for that night, or even the week. At this point, I was shaking. She was kind. Told me not to worry. Said she could get me a room right then and there, a different one. I didn't want to sleep there anymore, but it was past midnight, and I didn't know where else to go. I stayed in room 306 that night. Didn't sleep. The next morning, I went back to the 5th floor. Just to prove to myself I wasn't losing it. The lighting was bright again. Normal. And room 520 was there. Right between 518 and 522. Just like it should be. I stood in front of the door for several minutes. The number plaque was slightly crooked. Like someone had tried to pry it off and put it back. I didn't knock. I didn't touch the handle. I just turned around and left. I've never told anyone in person about this, because it sounds insane. But I swear on everything I have, that room didn't exist when I needed it to. And I still have the key card, the one with the wrong logo. I keep it in a drawer. Just to remind myself that not everything in this world is supposed to make sense. Story: what followed us back from the desert? My name is Elias. I'm 37 now, and I still don't know how to explain what happened that weekend in Las Vegas. It wasn't in a hotel or a casino. It started outside the city, and somehow, it followed us back. It was 2019. I went with my wife and her cousin, Erin. We'd driven from California, mostly to escape for a few days. On our second day in Vegas, Erin suggested we check out an abandoned airstrip he'd read about online. Something about old radar towers and a forgotten runway in the desert. I wasn't too interested, but he was persistent. Said it would make for cool photos at sunset. So, against my better judgment, we drove about an hour out, down this barely marked road until it turned into gravel. Then sand. Eventually, we reached a wide, flat area with some broken fencing and the remains of a hangar, just a rusted skeleton. The sun was already dipping low. Golden hour. It was quiet. Dead quiet. We walked around, took some photos, laughed a bit. I remember telling them it felt like the kind of place you'd find a body in. Just sand, wind, and silence. That's when my wife stopped walking. She was looking toward a dark structure half buried in the sand, maybe 200 feet away. Looked like a small bunker. Erin wanted to check it out, but something about it made me uneasy. Still, we went. The closer we got, the colder the air felt. Which was strange, it was still over 90 degrees out. The bunker door had been forced open long ago. We stepped just inside. Graffiti on the walls. Dust in the air. And something else. Something that sounded like slow breathing. None of us said anything, but I could feel that all three of us heard it. Deep, steady, and distant. Not echoing, more like it was coming from under us. I grabbed my wife's hand and said we should leave. We didn't run. But we walked fast. And the whole time, I couldn't shake the feeling that we weren't alone. Not like someone was watching us, more like something was becoming aware of us. Like we had woken it up. We got back to the car and drove in silence for a while. That's when Erin said, "Did you guys feel like something didn't want us there?" We all agreed. But we didn't talk about it again. That night, back at the hotel, strange things started happening. First, the air conditioner kept turning itself off. I'd get up, reset it, and minutes later it would shut off again. Then, our key card stopped working. Twice. The front desk had no explanation. At around 3 a.m., I woke up to the sound of water running. I thought maybe my wife was in the bathroom. but she was still beside me, sound asleep. The sink faucet was on full blast. I turned it off and went back to bed, heart racing. About an hour later, I was half asleep when I felt the mattress dip slightly, like someone had sat on the edge of the bed. I assumed it was my wife getting up. But when I turned, no one was there. She was still lying beside me. I stayed awake till the sun came up. In the morning, Aaron looked pale. He said he hadn't slept. He kept saying he saw someone in the mirror when he went to brush his teeth. A figure, standing behind him. But when he turned around, there was nothing. We cut the trip short and drove back that afternoon. I wish I could say it ended there. But for about a week after we got home, lights in our apartment flickered randomly. The TV turned on by itself more than once. One night, I heard what I can only describe as breathing again, low and steady, coming from inside the closet in our bedroom. When I opened it, nothing was there. Just a cold, dry smell. Like dust and old metal. We burned sage. My wife even called a friend who was into cleansing rituals. Things slowly went back to normal. But we never talked about it again. Not really. I don't know what was out there in that bunker. But I know we brought something back with us. Something that noticed us. Something that didn't want to be found. And now, I won't even drive through the desert. Not ever again. Thanks for listening. If you've ever experienced something strange, something you can't explain, feel free to share your story in the comments. And if you enjoy real, unsettling encounters like these, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. Because the scariest stories are the ones that actually happened.